or
Yes,
get?
most of it's impossible to replace.
Yes. Okay. Okay. This is the library.
Yeah, part of the library.
Okay. Alrighty.
Keep going. There's more. You shoot the transformers again from a different angle.
Yeah. Mammoth stockpile.
There's an aisle here you missed. You missed this aisle.
Okay.
Well, as long as we don't say anything, it's alright.
Alrighty. Okay.
There's all sorts of goodies hidden in here.
Wonderful looking. All sorts of antiquated devices.
And new devices.
And new devices.
There are newer devices here, sure.
Yeah. Have you ever done any kind of study on lightning rods?
No.
I'm very interested in recovering used lightning rods which have been struck.
Well, why don't we shoot down this aisle? Okay, you're running out of cord, I guess you can get a good look.
Yes.
Now, if you shoot down the ceiling, you'll see our parallel transmission line. See, it comes in there.
Yes, right here.
Through the bosom insulators.
Right, I
goes
see
to the grounding switch.
Right, I see the switches.
And then it just comes around curly cues and goes through the whole building.
There it is. Sure, hold on a second. Okay, we'll just pick it up from here. Okay, there's the parallel line.
Yeah.
Going right down the hall. This is a very wonderful stock room.
Okay, I guess that... Yes! Sure. Why don't you just shut down for now? Here is the same design, same model receiver bag like Tesla had in the penthouse that was in such bad shape. Fortunately, I recognized the receivers that Tesla had, documented what he had, what changes, if any, were made, and these are identical to them.
Yeah.
But these, turns out, were designed directly by Tesla for RCA. These were used by RCA Communications Inc., or today it's RCA Global Communications.
Okay.
These were used for overseas transatlantic transmissions, broadcasts, to pick up and receive on.
How many of these did he have against the wall in the penthouse, and which penthouse was it in?
It was in the one, I only saw it in New Yorker.
Okay.
I understand there was more equipment in the penthouse at one time on the Waldorf, but it was going long ago because the Waldorf was remodeled long ago. But he had 3 of these up against one wall.
Okay.
But they looked like kids had come in and stolen everything out of them. They were battered, they were bashed, there was burned dirt all over them.
Yes.
And you see, these are in good shape.
These are very good shape, yeah. Okay.
And these receivers are designed very uniquely.
Can you tell us something about that?
Well, I have to get very, very technical. You want me to go technical?
A little bit.
Well, essentially, the layout of the coils is very unusual, very symmetrical. Instead of using resistors for the bypassing of the different elements in the tubes, they use coils. And each coil, each set of bypass coils, is located under the main coil in a triangular pattern, so that the main coil makes up like a tip, and the triangular makes up sort of like a very weird triangular shape.
Almost like a psychogenerative shape?
Right.
Okay.
And that, I believe, is the secret of these receivers.
All right, they were actually implementing psychotronic principles, I guess.
Yes.
And the
well,
signals.
Tesla was he knew what he was doing with psychotronics.
Okay. Yes, now he had tried...
I don't have any of these hooked up, but if I was able to turn these on, you wouldn't believe the fidelities these have.
Okay.
These have fantastic fidelities.
Yeah.
These will pick up Europe without fading, for instance.
These in front of us here.
Yeah.
Tesla was working on a system of psychotronic type television. And I believe that Tom Brown has information on this. He sent me a copy. Well, he did send me a copy out of the, I think it was a
Tesla was working
Kansas
on all
Star
sorts
newspaper.
Of unusual functions.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we got enough of that.
Okay, this is very good. Thank you, Preston.
Shall we go look at the tape recorder?
Sure.
This is a remnant or a relic or a carcass of a RCA new orthophonic tape recorder. This was used by RCA Records a lot and by NBC. The old Victory at Sea recording was made on something similar to this. Not the first one. The first one was on an Ampex 200. The later one that was done in 57 and 59, where they made the phonograph record Victory at Sea, was recorded on one of these. This is identical circuitry-wise, if not a little bit poorer, to a Ampex 300. The secret of this recorder is not the machine or the electronics under here, but the case.
Yes.
The case is an orgone accumulator. Just stick your hand in there.
It's hard. Okay. We'll look down into the mouth of the beast.
Just stick your hand in the mouth of the beast. Feel
Oh, it feels cool.
it. Feel all the energy down in
Yeah, it's cool. There's a coolness inside.
And if I stick my hand, you notice it'll change everything to you.
Yes, it stopped buzzing.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there
also
was
you can put
there
your
was a
hand down
tingling
below.
sensation at the
You
fingertips.
put your hand in the amplifier compartment too, down below.
Okay, we'll look down here. Oh yeah, you feel it immediately.
See, the secret of this was they bathed the tape recorder in psychic energy.
The entire device was bathed in orgone.
Yep.
Okay.
Even the capstan motor is the same as a 300, except they got this odd little idler over here. You got another idler that is not in the 300.
Okay. So this is essentially an orgone box. It's wooden on the outside and steel
Here's
or
the
just
metal.
iron?
Here's the steel. And you can see the steel down in here.
I see. Okay. Now you had an experience with this.
Down in here.
I see. Okay. Now you had an experience with this while bringing it back. Am I not
Yeah, I
correct?
picked this up from the estate of an older gentleman in Manhattan that died. And we put this in the car, myself and the associate. And I drove this back from Manhattan, and by the time I reached the Nassau County line, I felt like I was drunk. I was able to drive all right, but I just felt higher than a kite.
Okay.
I was just overloaded with energy. As this thing ran along, it just accumulated more and more energy, and it was screaming by the time I got home.
That's good. Better than nutrients almost. Now I'm feeling a very powerful emanation coming off of this magnet head in front of us. I feel sort of like a signal like beaming out.
That's the erase head. The record and play head are missing from this, as well as the spooling motors are missing.
Okay, so maybe there's something to be said about magnets and orgone boxes. You mentioned something.
A lot of people have put magnets in orgone boxes.
And what seems to be the effect?
It seems to magnify it.
Okay. You were saying before that you believe that odyllic energy and orgone energy might just as well be the same type of thing?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
Okay. That's interesting. Some people have expressed the views that they're slight variants of one another, or different resonances.
Resonances can be different. The frequency content can be different.
Right. You've talked often about groups of frequencies rather than specific peak frequencies.
Let's go in where we can sit down.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Should we just... well, there's that antenna again. Very powerful. Okay.
Do you want to do products first or products afterwards?
Let's talk about the history first, and then we'll introduce the excellent product.
Okay.
Okay, Preston.
Well, we're now in. You get light in the lens. There's a latch on the door.
Okay.
You can just turn it.
Okay.
Then you can lean up against the door.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are now in the demo room of Preston Space-Time Laboratory. This is where we demonstrate to the public our products, essentially. You know, Jerry wanted to discuss the idea of Wilhelm Reich and Mr. Moray and those people. Let's first go into the Moray function. As everybody knows, if you don't know, you're going to know now, T. Henry Moray was a PhD, worked in Salt Lake City, Utah most of the time. He was in Chicago, he was in New York, but his main home base was Salt Lake City. What he's famous for is a number of things. The most famous thing that he had was a so-called free energy device. The reason I say so-called, because it isn't really free. He's still tapping the energy from an energy source, being the ether. Ethers believe today that the positron-electron pairs, where the positrons come into our reality and destroy themselves with the electrons, and this comes in as a scattered function, almost like Brownian motion, and generates a chaotic background of energetic noise. If you can cohere this background of energetic noise, you can tap immense amounts of power out of this. Reportedly, the Russians have done this 30, 40 years ago. This is one of the things Tesla was saying that. But reportedly, Moray made this box. It looked like an old 3-dial, old-time 20s radio. An old 3-dialer, we call it. He would tune the thing up. He did it with the detector in it, and he could light up 3,000 to 5,000 watts worth of light bulbs, toasters, whatever. This, of course, was in the 20s and 30s we're talking. And he challenged the leading physicists to come out and find the power source. No one was able to find the power source. My professor at Polytech, where I went to school, when he was a student, he went with his professor out to Moray Laboratory and tore the thing apart. And that man told me definitely the thing worked. They don't know how or why it worked, but it worked. And it wasn't a fake. They even took it out in the middle of the desert where there was no power line. Because it was suggested that it was picking up induced magnetic fields from the power line, or electric fields. So they took it like 50 miles away from any power line and still produced electricity very nicely. This, of course, is what the fringe science people know of T. Henry Moray. Of course, he was much more active. If you dig a little deeper into the fringe science, you'll find out he was active in medical devices, and he had his medical devices and his medical applications.
Yeah.
Of course, his medical tube patent actually is a tube that was in his free energy device. Moray essentially developed vacuum tubes. That was one of his specialties. He developed a coal emitter tube where the cathode that emitted the electrons was essentially doped with radioactive substances. The radiation itself would knock the electrons out of the metal and you get an emission without a filament. He had true coal cathode vacuum tubes. He built a radio receiver that reportedly needed no power to run it. It would drive a speaker at a nice level. Whether this worked off of the power of the local radio station, or he actually had a free energy device in the radio, no one really knows for sure. Now, what is very little known about T. Henry Moray is where did he get his money? He essentially was a consultant to the radio field. In the 30s, all the people who were in the radio field were looking for an edge to sell their receivers, their radios, to the public. Everybody had 4 tubes, and the radios were maybe the power output stage was 16 tubes and push-pull parallel. More tubes, the better. And you had these giant mammoth radio chassis just covered with tubes. Half of them did nothing. But you had this genius that would go around to different radio companies and say, hey, I can design you a more superior radio. He show a few of his little trinkets here and there, and he was hired.